Hey everyone, today we are going to go through chapters 29 through 32 of Deuteronomy, and this is just a very special section here. And and what there is, guys, is what needs to be set out here is this context of obedience. And when we left off last time together in chapter 28, what we saw in that is um, we were into the curses and we were seeing blessings and curses and blessings and curses, and all of this was really based on an if-then statement. If you obey, then guess what? You get the blessings. If you don't, you get the curses. And I found myself thinking about obedience and thinking about our reaction to it. I mean, most of us are pretty rebellious. I mean, it's we're right. It's our way. This is the way it's going to be. We don't like ultimatums. Yet right here, we're just being bombarded with it. We're being bombarded with obey, obey, obey. If you do this, then you get this. So is it a blessing or a curse? And and with the curses, finishing up in chapter 28, it even got to the point of cannibalism. Literally, women, the Israelite women, were eating their children, and I can't even fathom this, but that's the case. And you can reference areas throughout the Old Testament scripture in regards to that, showing where this, showing this in Israel's history. It happened with the Babylonians when the Babylonians took the Israelites captive, and later on with the Roman siege. So we see cannibalism in 2 Kings chapter 6 verses 26 through 29, Jeremiah chapter 19 verse 9, Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 10, and Lamentations chapter 4 verse 10. And looking at this, it sets the stage for Moses in the plains of Moab when we get into that here in chapter 29. And before doing so, thinking about obedience, if we look at the relationship, or if we look at where we're at, where we fall, where are we right now, where are you, where am I in this context of obedience, in this context of our relationship with God. And there are at least 6 different kind of places we might find ourselves. When we first come into a realization of God, and he's in getting to know him, there's this potter and clay, right? We recognize his powerful hand in our life. And then there's a shepherd and sheep, where we realize that we're being provided for and cared for. Master servant relationship, where we're committed to obey. We've made this commitment to obey. And then father and child, how sweet it is. I think of my own 5-year-old and 2-year-old, and how they just run around the house and they have freedom to just be kids. And this stage in our relationship with God and Christ, where you can just sit on the Father's lap and have a conversation, and then to be friends with God. And that's what Jesus tells us, is he calls us friends. And then bridegroom and bride. Bridegroom and bride, not only to be friends, but now to just consummate that relationship in such a powerful way that he is your God. Where do you find yourself? And that's where we're at here. And because what's really going on, as in chapter 29, is Moses is renewing the covenant with the people in Moab, and he's doing this in a way, all the way up to where we're going to read the Song of Moses. He's doing this in a way that is reminding the people again, hey, remember what happened, right? Chapter 29, verse 5, and I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out on you, and your sandals have not worn out on your feet. Chapter 8, we took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites. Actually, let's backtrack. Verse 6, you have not eaten bread, nor have you drunk wine or similar drink, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. The Lord provided. He provided the water. He provided the manna. He provided all of this for them. Don't forget that. And now you have these lands, with the Reubenites and the Gadites, or the Gadites and Manasseh. Here we already have this land east of the Jordan. All this is taking place. And as we came through that, we came out of the land of Egypt. We were coming through these other nations. We were seeing their gods, seeing the abominations and the idols that were among them. And then verse 18, so that there may not be among you man or woman whose hearts turns away today from the Lord our God to go and serve these gods. Serve these gods. The and ending with the man who hears the words of a curse but yet blesses himself in his heart and says, I shall have peace even though I follow the dictates of my heart, as though the drunkard could be included with the sober. In other words, um, there's a realness to this. Obey or not, but you know, just like the drunkard can't be sober, neither can one arbitrarily just say in the heart, "Oh, I shall have peace." The curses will be brought upon that man, and every curse that is written in the book would settle on him. It says, and then ending with verse 29: the secret things belong to the Lord our God. But those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. And there's a key lesson here, and what it is not giving up what we know for what we don't know. So as God reveals something to you, as there's a spiritual revelation or a word is given to you, and becomes part of you. There is a time period of working it out, right? Of it becoming this spiritual revelation to this practical walk in life. And it even says, and we see this in Luke, um, Luke chapter 12, verse 48. For everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required. And to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask more. And then in James, James chapter 4, verse 17. Therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. So as you get the revelation and it's becoming this practicality, one more is going to be required of you. More is going to be required of me. And once we know it, we have a responsibility then to fulfill on that. And that's what he's saying here is yeah, there are some secret things that belong to the Lord that haven't been revealed to us. But guess what? Those things which are revealed belong to us and our children forever. What's being revealed to you belongs to you. And we're seeing here chapters 29 and 30. Even to Moses knows God is revealed to him. God knows that the Israelites are a stiff-necked people. Knows that there's already going to be rebellion, right? Knows that there's things already been portrayed, with this cannibalism, things pointing to them being taken captive. And God knows that, Moses knows that, and then even in verse 30, or excuse me, chapter 30, verse 11, the choice of life or death, for this commandment which I command you today is not too mysterious for you, nor is it far off. Again, it's here, it's yours, it's available. I've set before you today, verse 15, life and good, death and evil, and that I command you today to love your God, to walk in his ways, to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you go to possess. And then in chapter 31, Joshua is acknowledged with Moses as the new leader of Israel, and Moses calls to Joshua and says to him in the sight of all Israel, verse 7, be strong and of good courage, for you must go with this people to the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And then verses 9 through 13, the law is to be read every 7 years, ultimately to keep it, right? To keep this in their minds and hearts. Verse 13, and that their children who have not known it may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land which you crossed the Jordan to possess. And then verses 14 on, there's the prediction of Israel's rebellion. Again, God knows it. And so as such, he gives Moses this song, which is called the Song of Moses. And God tells Moses, put it in their mouths, right? And so if you think of a nursery rhyme that you never forget, it's the same thing here with this song. It's to be put in their mouths so that they know it, they can sing it, and it is going to play out. To know this as a people, and to be thinking of it, or maybe even singing it, or or reciting it with each other as you're captive in Babylon, which they will be later on, during a Roman siege, whatever that is, to remember the Lord their God. Again, for verse 27 in chapter 21, for I know your rebellion and your stiff neck. This is Moses speaking. If today, while I am yet alive with you, you have been rebellious against the Lord, then how much more after my death? And then in chapter 32, the Song of Moses, it says, give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching drop as the rain, my speech distill as the dew, as raindrops on the tender herb, and as showers on the grass. For I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice. A God of truth and without injustice, righteous and upright is he. They have corrupted themselves, they are not his children because of their blemish. A perverse and crooked generation, do you thus deal with the Lord, O foolish and unwise people? Is he not your father who brought you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High divided their inheritance to the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the place of his inheritance. He found him, Jacob, in a desert land and in the wasteland, a howling wilderness. He encircled him, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirs up its nest, hovers over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, carrying them on its wings, so the Lord alone led him, and there was no foreign God with him. He made him ride in the heights of the earth, that he may eat the produce of the fields. He made him draw honey from the rock and oil from the flinty rock, curds from the cattle and milk of the flock, with fat of lambs, and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the choicest wheat. And you drank wine, the blood of grapes. But Jeshurun, this is a poetic name for Israel, meaning upright people. But Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. You grew fat, you grew thick, you are obese. Then he forsook God who made him, and scornfully esteemed the rock of his salvation. They provoked him to jealousy with foreign gods, with abominations they provoked him to anger. They sacrificed to demons, not to God, to gods they did not know, to new gods, new arrivals that your fathers did not fear. Of the rock who begot you, you are unmindful, and have forgotten the God who fathered you. And when the Lord saw it, he spurned them because of the provocation of his sons and his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end will be. For they are a perverse generation, children whom is no faith. They have provoked me to jealousy by what is not God. They have moved me to anger by their foolish idols. But I will provoke them to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I will move them to anger by a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled in my anger, and shall burn to the lowest hell. It shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap disasters on them. I will spin my arrows on them. So we see this destruction taking place here. And ultimately, lest they should say, our hand is high, and it is not the Lord who has done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel. For they, nor is there any understanding in them. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. How could one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, unless their rock had sold them and the Lord had surrendered them? For their rock is not like our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. For their vine is not of the vine of Sodom and of the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter, their wine is the poison of serpents, and the cruel venom of cobras. Is this not laid up in store with me, sealed up among my treasures? Vengeance is mine and recompense. Their foot shall slip in due time. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things to come hasten upon them. For the Lord will judge his people and have compassion on his servants. When he sees that their power is gone, and there is no one remaining, bond or free, he will say, where are their gods, the rock in which they sought refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offering? Let them rise and help you and be your refuge. Now see that I, even I, am he, and there is no God besides me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal, nor is there any who can deliver from my hand. For I raise my hand to heaven and say, as I live forever, if I whet my glittering sword, and my hand takes hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, with the blood of the slain and the captives, from the heads of the leaders of the enemy.